Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Preet Bharara, and I'm the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Today, we announce what is believed to be the largest gang takedown in New York City history. We have charged 120 defendants in two rival Bronx street gangs with racketeering, narcotics, and firearms offenses. In addition, the charges include allegations of multiple murders, attempted murders, shootings, stabbings, and beatings committed in furtherance of federal racketeering conspiracies. Yesterday evening and early this morning, nearly 700 NYPD officers and federal agents swept through the city to make arrests and to conduct court-authorized searches. So why did we bring these charges and take these actions today? The answer is very simple: to make the city safer for its citizens, particularly those who live in and around public housing projects who have suffered far too long with drugs and violence as an unavoidable part of their everyday lives. We bring these charges so that all New Yorkers, including those in public housing, can live their lives as they deserve, free of drugs, free of guns, and free of gang violence. How did this investigation start? It began in December 2014, at a time when violence was surging in the areas around the Eastchester Gardens housing projects in the Bronx. It started with dedicated police officers and federal agents working with committed gang prosecutors in our office, asking themselves two basic questions: what accounts for all this violence, and what can we do about it? It turns out that much of the violence was caused by two street gangs, one called the Two Fly YGs, and the Big Money Bosses. These gangs have been at war with each other and other gangs in the Bronx for nearly a decade, as we allege. These gangs, by the way, didn't distinguish between rival gang members and law-abiding residents of the community. If you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, you could be shot, stabbed, even killed. They didn't also distinguish between young and old. As alleged in the indictment, murder victims of these gangs ranged from a 15-year-old child allegedly stabbed to death to a 92-year-old woman killed in her own home by a stray bullet. The Two Fly Gang, a subset of the citywide Young Gunners, or YG gang, is based in the NYCHA housing complex of Eastchester Gardens, as we described. Now, over 2,000 people live at Eastchester Gardens. The vast majority are hardworking families trying to raise their families, earn a living, and to go to school in peace. But for years, as we allege, Two Fly terrorized residents of Eastchester Gardens, maintaining a stranglehold on the housing complex and its surrounding areas. They even took over a playground in the middle of Eastchester Gardens, and instead of children playing in safety, members of Two Fly allegedly stored guns and sold drugs in that playground. Both of the indictments include charges of narcotics distribution near public schools and playgrounds. Today's charges and arrests essentially dismantle the Two Fly gang from top to bottom. Now, BMB, the rival gang, is a subset of the citywide Young Bosses, or YB's, gang. Its members also call themselves the Money-Making Mafia, Triple M, or BLAMA. BMB operates, as alleged, a few blocks away on White Plains Road from 215th Street to 233rd Street. This area is a long stretch of road hedged on both sides by single-family homes and stores, with a number of, again, playgrounds and schools. Like Two Fly, we allege that BMB stored guns in abandoned homes and other places in public for easy access. And like Two Fly, BMB has allegedly been responsible for dozens of shootings, stabbings, beatings, and robberies, including several murders and attempted murders. And as with the other gang I mentioned, today's charges and arrests dismantle BMB as well from top to bottom. You can see that the chart to my left. As the indictments allege, Two Fly and BMB were not only at war with each other, but with other gangs operating out of nearby NYCHA housing developments as well. Violent organizations like the so-called Slut Gang, based in the Boston Secor housing development, and the YSGs based in the Edenwald. As we have seen with many criminal enterprises recently, Two Fly and B&B actively used social media to promote, protect, and grow their ranks, including by posting videos on YouTube bragging about their criminal endeavors. During the course of this investigation, we obtained warrants for over 100 Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts connected to the defendant's alleged criminal activity. Now, that's the criminal case. Let me pause for a moment to say a couple of things about the victims of these crimes. I'm not just talking about the direct victims who were robbed, beaten, stabbed, shot, or even killed, but also the residents of the communities who have had to suffer through the gang violence and the drug dealing, the gunshots in the middle of the night, the open-air drug markets and playgrounds and schoolyards, and the constant dread that their children or other loved ones might become the victim of a stray bullet. These are people whose struggles too often go unrecognized. If you live in public housing, you also have the right to live in a clean and safe environment. There are over 400,000 NYCHA residents who, according to housing and urban development regulations, are entitled to housing that is, I quote, and this is from the regulations, decent, safe, sanitary, and in good repair. And it's clear that many are not getting that. And that's why separately, in thinking about our overall public safety mission of the office, our civil division is looking separately at whether NYCHA is actually providing housing that satisfies these HUD mandated conditions. Housing that is, quote, decent, safe, sanitary, and in good repair, close quote. Because at the end of the day, all of these worries are interwoven. I know that the police commissioner agrees with that. Whether NYCHA buildings have proper lighting, working elevators, trash-free hallways, and lead and mold-free apartments. In other words, whether the housing is in decent, safe, sanitary, and in good repair, that affects whether gangs and drugs can take hold of areas and of neighborhoods. It affects whether the rule of law reigns or the chaos of a gang takes root. Now, while today's actions cannot solve all the problems at the Eastchester Gardens, they go a long way, we think, in eradicating the source of so much mayhem in that neighborhood. Now, the charges and arrests today, as you can see by how many folks are standing up here beside me at this podium, given it's the largest of its kind, we believe, that's the product of a lot of collaboration and cooperation, so there are a lot of partners to acknowledge, so please bear with me. First, I want to thank the NYPD, represented here by its great commissioner, Commissioner Bratton. I also want to thank some folks in particular, Chief of Detectives Robert Boyce, Deputy Chief Jason Wilcox, Commanding Officer of Detective Bureau of the Bronx, Inspector Christopher McCormick, Captain Louis DeSegli, Lieutenant Michael Costello, a rabbit pit.
He died. And them brothers, you know, but there's going to be a time where the Most High is going to destroy you, all right? We had an incident down there in the GMS Atlanta camp where the scoffer came up talking shit, and a couple of days later he was found shot in the head a couple of times. He died. And them brothers put the video up, you know? So the Most High is just beginning to, you know, bring death upon Jake. And, you know, you deserve it, man. I mean, if you've been watching the news, Jake be killing himself, shooting himself left and right. You had a situation where, this is in Delaware, I believe, where you had this girl got into a fight with another girl, or some other girl jumped in, and they wound up killing her. And then when you see the news, before they show the faces, the way they describe it or the name that they bring up, you know there's a Jake. And then sure enough, a nigga woman pop up, you know? So, you know, this Jake is acting like a fucking wild beast. So they have to be put down, like a rabid dog, or a rabid pit bull. You gotta put that dog, you gotta put that puppy down. So these jakes out here, they're like wild bulls in the net. And that's in the scriptures. Give me that in the scripture. All right.
Were fans of Rihanna.
Now,
And
what's gonna,
bathing,
what's gonna
promoting
transpire, when these scoffers get destroyed by the Most High through the race wars, the famine, the Armageddon,